Hi, you're listening to Playing Out from the Bar. Please be aware this podcast contains strong language.
Before we kick off this episode, a message from Trice about our new beer partner.
Hi everyone, before we jump into our usual football pub chat nonsense, we've got some exciting news for you. We've teamed up with Whisper Brewery as we want to give back to our listeners. As a Playing Out from the Bar listener, you can get 10% off on their website. Just search Northern Whisper, select the option to order online and enter code Playing Out from the Bar 10 to get your 10% off. Easy as that. What do you reckon, boys?
Superb, Trice. I mean, as we've talked about on this podcast before, many a time, you both know that I have quite a narrow taste in beer. I'm normally just flicking back between premium lagers, so I'm looking forward to giving this a go, and I hope the listeners take advantage and do the same.
Yeah, definitely the same for me as well. Feel like I've used this lockdown as an opportunity to broaden my horizons away from the Carlin and Fosters of the world and started to take on some more independence, and I know this is highly regarded from your neck of the woods, so I'll be sure to jump on it and continue ordering some beers in at home as the world returns to normal.
If you recommend it, Trice, then I'm confident you've got.
Goes without saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, before we head on, remember, please drink responsibly. Let's crack on, lads.
Lovely stuff. Hello, welcome back, listeners. Welcome back to a special episode of Playing Out from the Bar, where only 48 hours ago it looked like the future of football might be very different, but a lot has changed in that time. We've had clubs pulling out of the Super League left, right and centre in the past few days, and that's going to obviously form the main body of our episode tonight, because you just can't ignore it really, obviously, as I'm sure you're appreciating at the moment. This is big news and it's everywhere, so we're going to give our own take on what's been going on. First of all, welcome back to the bar, open for an emergency tonight, to Lewis Trice and Lewis Dawson. How are we doing, boys? I'll come to you first, Trice. Have you got anything from the bar for this emergency record?
Emergency record. Hi boys, you alright? Yeah, what a week of football politics. I am on a Northern Whisper, quite predictably. Senior Whippy this week, and I believe you two may have some coming your way, and we may have a little teaser for the listeners as well. Some prizes to give away around that. So that's pretty positive.
Quality.
Other than that, we're pretty good. Just want to, before we crack on and you get to Dobby, just want to shout out Neil, who won our competition with the Maps company.
Yep. Well done, Neil.
He opted for a map of Wales, the sporting clubs one, so it looked pretty cool in like the dragon colours and stuff like that. He was pretty pleased with it, it seemed. He did thank us, so congrats, Neil. Well done.
Enjoy your map, Neil. That all sounds good, mate. Good to have you in, Trice, in the bar this evening. Dobby, what about yourself?
Yeah, good evening, gents. I'm on the house special double strength apple and blackcurrant tonight, so no
hard stuff.
Yeah, no alcohol for me this week.
The house speciality, non-alcoholic drink.
Yeah,
blackcurrant.
After like being allowed back out last week and being able to make it to and having a week off work and being able to make it to the pub like 3 days, I decided this week just to just steady the ship a little bit, because I'm not sat and drank pints back to back for a long time, so it was causing me some serious damage.
It does take some getting used to, doesn't it? I thought that when I had my first proper pint. It's a bit like, you can drink bottles all you want, but it's when you have that first one, it does knock you back a little bit.
I think we've said it befor as well. The issue, being able to get back outside, inside, and whatever, I'll take it. But if you go out for a bit of a session, at the minute you are just sat and still. So once you get past 5 pints, it does become quite different, because you can't just stand up, move about. You are just sat still, drinking back to back. So it does take it out of you a bit, and I think it's just trying to build up the tolerance again. So yeah, this week I've not got any beers in the house, and I'm on the cordials, which is very Sad, I know. But yeah, other than that, all good, thank you.
Good stuff, mate. I'm actually going to mention what I'm drinking this week, only because I was in the exact same position as you, Dobby, rooting around the fridge, couldn't find anything. I was doing the last minute Scrabble for something to bring to the bar tonight, and I've managed to get this. I think this is called Triple Carmelite or Carmelite. I don't know how I'm pronouncing that. If anyone who knows Boosteel Brewery who knows how to pronounce the name.
Is it French?
Can tell me. I don't know. I'm going to hold up to the camera
Le
now,
beer, le dickhead.
which is again not for the listeners' benefit.
That looks Belgian.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
So it's 8.4%.
Shit.
So I'm going to be struggling to host the
Wow.
majority of this episode. So just a little warning for the
Wow.
listeners there.
How many of them have you got in the fridge? Is that just the one
This is it,
bottle?
mate.
or-
I'm down. This is my one bottle for the evening. This has got to see me through, so it's a good job it's strong because
If it's been there a while, it might have gone up a few percent as well.
yeah, I should shout out my dad. This is actually I think this was my dad who ordered this originally, and I've
Yeah.
just sort of swiped it. So, and I know he listens occasionally. So yeah, thanks for
Lovely.
this, Dad. Yeah, swiftly moving on. What have we got? I mean, obviously it's been such a big week in terms of the news about this failed European Super League, which we're going to come on to in great detail. But I suppose, is there anything that's caught our eye on socials that we'd like to bring to the table that's particularly funny? I mean, there's been I feel like there's been so much good stuff flying about. It's hard for us to cover it all really in the space of a few seconds. But,
Yeah. You're right, isn't there? There's been just so much. I did quite like
Twitter's
the
been
one.
a great place for the past 3 days. It's been far better than
Yeah.
it normally is, I have to say.
Yeah, I did like because obviously we've been sharing a couple in our group. I did like the one that was shared last night by I think it was Trice. The build up to the Chelsea game and the fans outside, and there's a few pictures of that. And then there's the one that had the sign in it that said Mike Dean slaughters chickens. A very Partridge statement by a fan there.
Yeah, that was superb. That was great. I loved it. Yeah, I like the I don't know if either of you two saw it, but like Frank Lampard often does like a light-hearted point in his interview, and then like he laughs and then says a serious point.
Yeah.
After Monday, someone tweeted a photo of Frank Lampard laughing, saying that wasn't very super of Liverpool, was it? Laughs, but seriously, this will destroy football completely. With a serious face. Trice, have you got anything to add, mate?
Yeah, I saw one, and it was some bloke tweeted, "This European Super League has all the makings of a night out when lads haven't told their missus." Like as soon as they told the girlfriends, they've had to pull out last minute.
Yeah,
that's
one
so
by
true.
one they're dropping us, and then the last four are like, oh fuck it.
Yeah, before you
We'll do
know
it
it, you
next
just
year.
got Florentino Perez just stood in the nightclub by himself.
I saw
It's been-
Carragher tweet that like something about the WhatsApp admin of the Super League will have changed about 5 times in the space of 2 hours last night. When
Yeah.
everyone was leaving the league. Just like the classic when plans, like if you've organised a trip or something, and when plans just fall apart and those WhatsApp groups just become dishevelled. Yeah, that was good. So obviously, I mean, to recap, we actually, I mean, not to say that people haven't been predicting this
We've called
Super
this.
League idea for
We've
years.
called this.
Yeah, it's been talked about for almost, it's when Saturday comes, we're doing editorials on it back in the 1980s. But we talked about it on this show in our first series and said, some of the worries that we had about the future of football then. I didn't quite think that within the space of less than 5 months, I guess, 4 or 5 months, that we'd be talking about it again, because 12 clubs had tried to organise this odious breakaway. Let's start off with, what was your initial gut feeling, gents? What was your reaction on Sunday night when you heard the news?
Well, for me, we're not going to be able to say what's not been said already. So, we're not a ranty podcast, really. You're not a one of them ones that's every week type thing, reaction podcast. But I was just absolutely amazed, really, when I saw it. Like, is this real? Like,
Yeah.
are they actually for real? And I think it was Roy Keane, and he's sort of brilliantly brief, isn't he, on Sky at times?
Yeah.
And he just said it's based on greed for me and greed only, and there's no other reason for that. They've not considered fans, managers, or players. They've just, like Carragher called it, the mafia in this country, and I agree. I think it's been coming for a while, hasn't it? Something like this, and there's only so much you can take really as a fan before you go, whoa. That is a good thing to come from this, is the fan power. But yeah, initial reactions, I was like, what the hell is going on here? And I saw something, and it actually like summed up like my views on it. Really, it was a meme like watching this unfold as a League Two fan, and basically like this town's on fire, and this League Two fan is just sat there on a swing, like having a nice time. And to be honest, that's how I felt. Like I sort of, it was disrespectful to the football in this country, I guess, but I felt that they're going to do it again at some point. They were going to do, they're going to do another stunt from Project Big Picture to this. I probably still feel there's more in the tank from them, to be honest. And I just hope that football can pull through and sort of fight it off.
I mean, looking at it, like you say, Trice, obviously I suppose it's different, but it affects all of us as fans, doesn't it? Whether you're a fan of League Two club, whether you're a fan of one of the 14 Premier League clubs, whether you're a fan of just your local non-league club, it's all connected to that pyramid and that principle of fairness and what might be achieved. Yes, nowadays football's obviously going to have rich people investing at the top. It's always been about money. That's not really changed. The only change is the amount of money involved, and I think that it's just, even if the only way to the top is for your club to be taken over by someone very rich, at least there's still a chance of that happening. And what this idea was trying to do was pull up the drawbridge and just not even allow for any clubs, even if they get taken over, even if they're able to sign the best players in the world, not even allowed to dream that they could reach the pinnacle of the sport, really, which is what upset me so much. Dobby, what was your sort of initial reaction, and what are your feelings on it now?
So I don't think I got it like quite live in the moment. I think I, for whatever reason, was a little bit behind. So it was almost like there was a lot of reaction already when I came to like being like familiarised with it, and so it was. So the first thing was just like the overwhelming like realisation of how like opposed this was. Like the amount of people on social media who I know are like the Man United, Liverpool fans, and were just being so vocal and like standing against it and like quite united. And I was like, that was probably one of the first things that I saw that was just quite overwhelmingly like nice to see is like a footballing community. But I think I think Rosie maybe mentioned it to me and said like, have you seen this? Like these like clubs are basically gonna be have like signed up to do this, and when she said it, I thought it's just going to be one of these proposals like they've signed an agreement, they put the name for like almost just a proposal, and it'll take a couple of years to come off. And then when I actually looked at it in a bit more depth, it was like, wow, this is actually quite a serious thing, and it seems like they're really going to push through with this. And the worry is that there is a lot of power and influence within them clubs, and a lot of I'll say at the minute, a lot of wealthy owners that potentially could do some serious damage. But it was then my knee-jerk reaction afterwards, like I say, was just seeing how kind of united everybody was on social media, and it did make you think like there's no way that this can happen almost, surely. But I think for me as well, it was one of them where, and I'm still trying to understand. I know we've like said before and joked on the podcast about like let them go almost, like let them go, let us have a more let the bubble burst a bit, and let the English game come back to being less commercialised, more competitive, and who knows, like next year it could be Brighton and Palace are battling it out at the top of the Premier League, at the top of the English Division 1, but I'm not an economist or finance professional, so I wouldn't know how it would come about if clubs were to leave and go off to do a Super League, and how that actually would impact the English pyramid. But aside from that, though, you've got to remember, like, these clubs do have their own fan bases. Like, imagine being part of one of them clubs and seeing that headline hit and knowing that you, like, you're a season ticket holder, your dad was a season ticket holder, your dad's dad was a season ticket holder, and that kind of like that connection you have with your family and your friends is just almost going to get picked up and moved. And like you say, we're going to move it to America for 2 games a year and China for a game a year, because inevitably that was always what was going to happen, wasn't it? And then you realise, like, okay, well, the bigger picture is we're all football fans at the end of the day, and we all just want to see, like, our teams succeed in the proper pyramid and the fair opportunity that there is. So yeah, that was kind of my initial reactions. It was a little bit all over the place, that shock, thinking like, wow, they seem serious about this, but then almost that kind of like real reassurance in seeing how like united everybody was in opposing it. So yeah.
I mean, go on, Jack. Sorry. I was going to say, for me, the things that really stood out was like there's 3. I was on, when was it? Monday night. 3 things that really stood out for me about how serious it was, and it was probably a turning point in all of this. I would say Jurgen Klopp's interview on Sky when he said, you got asked about it. What's your views? In 2019, you said blah blah blah. You were opposed to it. Is that still the case? And he's like, my views haven't changed on that. So that was like Mark 1. Like,
that was positive. Yeah,
you've got one of the biggest sort of reputations in coaching in the world, challenging it. And then I actually thought the crucial interview on Monday night was Patrick Bamford's for Leeds. I think when he basically said, it's fascinating when people's wallets are involved, how things form into this opera, and it's so true, because like both sides of the coin, like maybe Sky were worried it's affecting their product, so they're ramping up their antiness of it, and then for Milner, who's arguably the most experienced player in the top 6 or possibly Premier League, and like that model pro to come out and say, no, it's a bad idea, in my opinion. I hope it doesn't happen. And like, football sets up to have like, James Milner's in every squad, doesn't it? That's what a coach wants. And when Milner's, if for example Salah had come out and said, I'm not sure, and not really said anything, or a foreign player had come out and said, I don't think the media would have jumped on it as much. But for Milner to sort of, a lad from Leeds who's won everything there is to win in the game, for him to come out and say that, I think had such an impact.
I thought all the broadcasters handled it perfectly, really. I mean, I get what you're saying about potentially this plan could have harmed the business models of Sky Sports and BT Sport long term, but I think they've still got they had a job to like reflect the mood of football fans. They could have just ignored it and just covered the games that they were going to and covered them straight games. Like, I particularly thought BT Sport would do that on Sunday after the FA Cup semi-final, because we didn't really know the full scale of the plans at that point. It was sort of just breaking. But like, they immediately came out and were like, this is just wrong. Everyone can feel it's wrong. I mean, you very rarely get anything on social media that unites people in general, full stop. Like, what's the last thing? I don't know. Like, it's
2012 Olympic Games, probably.
Yeah. I was going to say Black Lives Matters last summer, but then I think even that somehow manages to divide people, which is like another topic, another argument altogether. But it's like there's very few things that can unite everyone. Football fans, like, I'm not talking about fucking idiots who have like stupid avatars of professional players in their name and their photo. They don't count. They're not real people. But real football fans who are on social media on Monday and Tuesday of this week were completely united against this. Really, the only people I heard speaking up for it were people who you just know were just doing it for the sort of
clicks.
Yeah, the clicks, the noise. They wanted the sort of attention of, I'm going to agree with it just because no one else is agreeing with it. But I've not seen any rational fans back it. That said a lot to me.
Definitely, I agree. And I think you're right. Even like the punditry that surrounded it all this week, I think was absolutely spot on. I think, like you say, Sky are almost. It's kind of like, well, look at your role in kind of the football's development over 20 years. But I think having like Carragher and Neville in the studio, it was almost like they just spoke like with the hearts almost, and it didn't matter what name was on their paycheck. And I thought it was such an honest insight. And just like, I don't know if you watched the build up to Monday Night Football, but
I did.
You could watch that again. Like you genuinely could go back in 10 years' time and rewatch that and think it's absolutely amazing, because it is just two proper professionals who, just like us, are just fans of the game at the end of the day. And when you see people like that speak about it, and how well they speak about it as well, and articulate it, like you say, there's no point us trying to go over it again when they've said everything that should be said so well. But just seeing people like that really defend it the way they did does just make you almost reflect on like the pyramid system we have in place, and in like European football and English football, and it makes you realise just why it's so much importance, and like why that needs to be protected, and why certain clubs can't just consider themselves like above that for their own financial protection, or because they value themselves as a brand a lot higher. And it's like, I was just reflecting this week and thinking, even in our lifetime, we've seen, like, I know we joke about a lot of clubs on here, but we've seen Brighton go from playing in a blooming athletics ground to now having an amazing stadium and being a fairly well-established Premier League team. And in the same time, we've seen Sunderland now in League One from being quite a fairly kind of stable, quite a stable Premier League team. And in Leeds, like in my lifetime, look where we went, down to League One, and you think people, that's what football needs, like them not consequences, but that unpredictability that you might look at a certain team now or a certain club now, and they shouldn't have a protection from being or be restricted to where they can go in 10 years. You should want the likes of your Brightons and Bournemouths to be able to go through the divisions and compete in the Premier League and have aspirations of going beyond that. And teams like Leeds and others should pay consequence for when they do let their finances get out of control, and when they haven't managed them appropriately, they should have to jeopardy should be in place, and they should lose their position by a rightful team who's manage their investments appropriately. And I think that's the thing, and you've seen these clubs, the focus that they've put on their own financial, or the spotlight that's come on their financial positions this last 12 months, like the Spanish ones being the most interesting. And it's just so ironic how it comes at that time, and it's almost like you're in a bad financial position, and this is your way out of it. Well, no one else
stinks of desperation for me from the Spanish clubs. Like,
they've driven this. I mean, I know Liverpool and Manchester United have not covered. You know, they're the worst of the English clubs for driving it. Those odious owners that they've got. But let's not beat around the bush. This is because Real Madrid and Barcelona are penniless. They've been trying to keep up for years. If the bank knock on Barcelona's door tomorrow, they're fucked. They're absolutely fucked. They've got no money left, and that's what's driven this whole thing.
Well, yeah, I completely agree, Jack. And like Liverpool and Man United, I agree with what Neville says. Like, as the pinnacle clubs in England, really, the elite clubs, the history, everything about them,
that's fair enough.
They should hold themselves to a higher ground than that. Yeah. However, their owners, it's been out in the press that Joel Glazers still doesn't know what the offside rule is, and what's his name, John Henry, can't grasp the concept of relegation and just can't understand that. So you sort of see where they're coming from. They're American. They make a lot of money with Boston Red Sox and other franchises in America. I understand that a little bit. However, like Perez at Real Madrid is just doing it out of desperation, in my opinion, because he's the skin, like you said, Jack, and the need and then he's spouting nonsense like the youth of today are not interested in football.
I was going to come on to this because this is the worst quote I think I've seen this week.
What's he say? 40% of 16 to 24-year-olds don't like football.
Apparently games need to be shorter because no one's got an attention span, which is a thing I've raised before about obviously the rise of the smartphone. There is going to be people are going to find it strange to look at a TV monitor for 90 minutes. But I don't think that alone means that people are becoming bored of football. Like young, I mean, you look at the Chelsea fans that were protesting. Most of them were, I'd say, were 16 to 24, 20, beyond in the 20s. They're all young lads that were there protesting. So this idea that the kids are just watching, and you're not going to be playing Fortnite or Call of Duty or whatever the rivals for football are for that age demographic. You're not going to be doing that for your whole life. So I don't buy this idea that there are far fewer young people interested in football. I'd say it's more popular now than it's ever been.
Yeah, just on the Chelsea fans there, Jack. They have got a reputation for sort of loving a protest and a riot. Like that, anywhere a police horse is, a Chelsea fan's not far away in London. I don't think.
Like the French.
Yeah,
I was happy to see them there.
But I mean, fair play to
Chelsea fans.
Yeah, fair play to him.
But we should say well done to those fans because they really stood up for us.
I listened to the Square Ball Leeds United related podcast the other night, and I thought one of the best things that I took away from there, like one of their guys' analysis of it, was essentially just around like how just ridiculous it is that clubs can, like, I think one of the quotes was like Real Madrid will happily pay Gareth Bale £500,000 a week to play golf, and Arsenal will pay Mesut Ozil 350 grand a week to sit on the bench. Like, if these clubs like genuinely need more money, then just learn to like manage your wage bill and manage your squad better. Exactly. And I think one of the other references they made was almost like Leicester sold Harry Maguire for however much money, and out of that they've basically funded a Champions League, like a team to compete for the Champions League. Like, so have a look at your own business model before trying to like think that the system's unfair on you.
Exactly.
Perez spent 130 million on Hazard when he was 29. He's in no position to lecture the world on economics of football.
They've got like an inferiority complex because they haven't liked it that clubs like Man City, and I know people slag off Man City and PSG and why they're at the top, but I don't mind that as much, purely because at least it gives teams a route to the top, even if it's financially driven. At least every team can dream of being taken over the way Man City were, and like they've just have it. The likes of Perez and the top guys at Barcelona, they've just got an inferiority complex. They've not been able to match those funds. They can't compete with the states that back PSG and Man City. So like you two have just said, they've just tried to, even though the money's not there. They've just borrowed against it, and now they're getting their comeuppance, and it's completely deserved in my opinion. I mean, Barcelona can't even get their finances right when fucking idiots like me will fly over to Barcelona and go on like a stadium tour of the new camp, which I did because I thought this is a genuinely spiritual football like pilgrimage almost. Like it's an important football stadium in the world game, and so I'm gonna go and see it. But Barcelona can even get millions, so many people around the world doing that, and they still can't balance their books. It's embarrassing.
I agree. And for me, the other thing that, just to sidetrack off Barca, I touched on this before, Jack, we were waiting for Dobby. I feel sorry for Spurs fans because they've tried the hardest in the past decade to slip the Spursy title, right? And whether they're a big club or not, they are a big club in the Premier League and, a reasonably sized club on a European scale, but I wouldn't say they're an elite club.
No.
I like Barca, Real Madrid, Liverpool, Man United. I wouldn't say they're on that calibre.
I mean, let's just reiterate, they've not won as many Premier Leagues as Blackburn.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. From the outside looking in, it looks like they've done absolutely everything within their power to sort of suck up to the big boys. Like, we are part of your gang.
Yeah.
Even though we've not won a trophy since 2008, we've got a nice ground. Our last league title was 1961. We've only finished in the top four like 6 or 7 times since 1990. That's not elite at all. And the fact that they started the week by getting absolutely ridiculed by the Twitter admin of Dulux, and and then had the European Super League join, basically sacked Mourinho on the back of that. And then, I mean, this is not at the Spurs fans, this is Daniel Levy and how he's run it, but sacked Mourinho because they could afford to pay him off, and then, a day later the whole thing falls on its sword. It's just absolutely amazing. Like, from a neutral, like that, you just got to laugh at things like that.
Yeah.
I honestly believe if Tottenham had never signed Luka Modric, and I'm inviting any Spurs fans to challenge me on this, if Tottenham had never signed Luka Modric back in 2008, they would be in their, what I consider, as a young, like, sort of 8-year-old, 9-year-old fan, I'd consider to be their rightful place, which is 14th in the Premier League, like, winning a few games at home, but not really ever getting any sort of consistency to get into the top half. That's where they were. That is the Tottenham from my youth. And then, like, okay, they got a good team together. They did well to break the big four, as it was then, get into the Champions League. That was fantastic, but it doesn't give you a right to 10 years of being a sort of semi-decent Premier League club gives you a right at the top table forever. Just bullshit.
Yeah. It's obviously just everything on this has been finance related, hasn't it? That's pushed it essentially. Anyone who shows that their financial value is of worth to be considered in that like bracket. That's all it's down to at the end of the day.
Here comes the money, man.
Yeah.
I mean,
pretty much.
I suppose like it's a difficult question to ask, and I understand that there is some cynicism over. Yes, it's brilliant. These plans have been turned over in the space of 48 hours. I just think it's hilarious more than anything. Obviously, there's a lot of cynicism around the Champions League's being revamped anyway. These clubs are just going to come back to the table another day and they'll be better for this experience. But did it not give? Because I don't know about you two, but it gave me some real pleasure to see what I saw on Tuesday night. The Chelsea fans protesting and not letting that team bus in. That Chelsea pathetically having to send out Petr Cech as some sort of peacemaker. Like, fucking, they couldn't even do it themselves.
He should have worn his scrum cap.
Yeah.
And then, like, so I was celebrating that those teams dropping out one by one as if it was like a goal, as if it was a goal Newcastle had scored. I was like, this is brilliant. But what sort of, I mean, what hope do you think it gives us as fans long term? Do you think the fan voice is stronger now because of what's happened in the past week?
I think potentially, because I feel like for a long time now there's always been like a lot of small conversations or like little or like banners in the grounds about how like football's kind of being taken away from the fans, and it's been outpriced, and the TV deals around it are just become too expensive. And I think there's always been like, well, we know there's been a lot of discussion around that, but I feel like this was the big first like united stand of fans and I think it's probably shown the power that really can be had when everybody gets together and actually has one joint vision. And I'd be really interested to see how that like plans out over the next couple of years, because this hasn't solved like the problem. There's still obviously it's still there's still there was a big gaping hole that allowed this to happen. So that needs to be filled, and the regulation needs to be sorted out in around all this. But there's just other things in football, and we bring them up every week, don't we? We sit here and discuss about the things we'd like to get rid of. Yeah. But they're genuinely shared feelings throughout like the footballing universe, and I think it might give people. And I'm not saying that all of them things are going to go. Like, I'm not going to go back to running out of the tunnel because everybody goes to Twitter and say. But there's genuine
one home
things.
Kit a year needs to be eradicated.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that, Dobby.
But there's genuine things that just aren't right, or that need to be addressed, and I feel that. There will be other things in the future, and I feel that this has probably given a bit of evidence that the voice of the fans is pretty strong. So I hope, but I could be wrong, but that's just my little takeaway from it.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying though, Dobby, but I saw the clip from Sky where it was the football reporter Caves, what's his name? Yeah, Cave, and he was saying that the Juve chairman was calling it a civil war of football, and like that's, now this is collapsed on itself. That's sort of like, the war's won, if you like. But for me, I think if fans go back to accepting been overpriced, been commercially responsible in terms of shirt sales every year and things like that, and just not having their voice, I generally think that this will happen again. I think that fans of the Premier League and English clubs in this country have got to take the momentum and just the owners are on the ropes here, and these billionaires do not want the hassle of having to peacekeep as well as making millions. Like, they just want to make the millions, so they will do whatever is easiest for them and their business. I think, and I think that as football fans, we've got an opportunity to actually maybe tip the scales in favour again, and drive change for the better. And if you're one of the 14 clubs that's sort of in the Premier League briefing talking about this, you are saying you've got to throw the book at them, the Premier League. You have to throw the book at these clubs and punish their owners, and make sure that this doesn't happen again, and that the game can live on and prosper. But I think as fans, we've got to be careful if we just sit back and think, put our faith in the Premier League, UEFA, and the broadcasters around the world.
They've led us to this, haven't they?
Exactly, it's just going to happen again. I mean, the Champions League plans for what was slipped in under the radar really are a complete joke as well. The
Champions League plans. Basically, there's been a lot of complaints about the Champions League group stage. That's one of the reasons these Super League clubs had for they didn't like the dead games, having to play the likes of, Red Star Belgrade, Celtic, CSK Moscow in the Champions League group stage. They didn't seem that they didn't think they were worthy of those games. But the Champions League proposals that have been introduced by UEFA just seem to make the group stage bigger, more group stage fixtures. So I don't see that's like say it's like, oh, you don't want something, well, let's make more of it, let's have more of it. It doesn't really fit, and I'm not sure. I agree with Trice. I'm not sure that's gonna fit us down. Just a note on your, you talked about that you think it's time to sort of go in hard. If you're the other 14 Premier League clubs, you're going hard on those 6 now. What do you think is a fair punishment for those 6 having shown themselves up, the owners?
It's a good question. That I think, without sounding like a peep show reference, any fine has to be significant enough for them to take it serious. If it's a couple of million, it's a disgrace, in my opinion. It needs to be. I don't think the fine's the right route to go down. I would go transfer embargo and point deduction of something that's fair for everyone. So, I don't know, 15-point deduction, something like that. That would probably still mean City could be competitive and finish in the top 4, or even win the title off that. Yeah. And, Chelsea would be mid-table, Liverpool would be bottom half, Man United would be mid-table.
Go for Leicester in that scenario.
Well, yeah, Leicester would, because they've done nothing wrong, they've played by the book. Yeah. I think that, something like that, 15 points and maybe 2 transfer windows, something like that, just to say, listen, you bunch of dickheads, you can't be doing that. What
was the peep show reference you were coming in with?
Well, when Jeff... Mark's Jeff's manager, isn't he? And he's thinking of ways to give him a bonus.
Oh yeah, pathetic.
What's more insulting, no bonus or £110? And I feel that's what the Premier League would do as a fine. What's more insulting?
What's more humiliating for Man City? The £2 million fine, or pathetic £200,000 fine?
Yeah, that's how I see it, sort of. But yeah, I think it's just got to be fine them, punish them, whatever, but move on and strive for change as fans. I would say, make sure it doesn't happen again.
Yeah,
it can't. Make sure it can't happen again. Maybe that's
it. I almost think it's you think of the clubs that have been punished for entering administration. The fans of those clubs, it's not their fault that they've entered administration. They've had to live with the consequences. So I don't see, as much as I feel I know, proper Man United fans, I'm sure we all do, not Man United fans who bought a Man United shirt or had one bought for them when they were 7 years old and just said they supported Man United. I'm talking about real Manchester United fans where it's passed down generation to generation. I know real Liverpool fans who come from the city, and that city will be an uncomfortable place for those owners. There's no doubt about it. They've fucked with the wrong crowd completely, because once they turn on you, they don't really turn back, I don't think. So I have sympathy, huge sympathy for the fans of those clubs that don't want this to happen. But equally, I also think punishment should be fair, because, I mean, every club's been punished at some point down the years for something that it's not always to do with the fans, is it?
Yeah, but I think the fans I completely agree, and I think this is the best opportunity that we'll have as a group of fans to kind of like carry that momentum. But as we've all said, like, this has been a long time coming, and we could all see it a mile off, and it's just, why could it ever have got to a point where this could happen? And that's another thing that just needs addressing, like, massively, as to how can these proposals get to this point? How is there not enough like safeguarding to stop that from happening? Like, the regulations just not not what it needs to be, essentially. Yeah, and it's the same with it's tough, isn't it? We could sit here all night and dig into all the different areas of football. We could speak about UEFA, FIFA, the Premier League, Sky, and it would just be a long discussion about where everything's gone wrong in each of them. But I think, yeah, it was great to see the fan unity, and I think, as you say, Trice put it perfectly. Let's just see what can be done from here, and see if some of that momentum can kind of be like tested, and what other difference it can make.
The one thing I always said, I think I've said it on a previous episode, is owners of clubs should not be allowed to change the following things. And I think I had stadium name and the stadium itself, the kit that the club wears, like the colours, and the name of that club. That core group should not be allowed to change. But then I'm also thinking, after the news this week, the competition that the club plays in should also be something that isn't up to the owners, because it's not theirs to take away at all.
Definitely.
Yeah.
That's
we'll add to that list throughout the series what owners can't change. But no, I think that's good stuff, boys. We've managed to get a lot off our chest there about what's gone on to our sport this week, and hopefully feel a bit better for it. Yeah. We probably should have put the VAR into Room 101 last week. I can't believe I didn't do that, but yeah, we'll come to that on another episode. Just before we move on, everyone, we've got I say we. I think Trice has actually put this together on our social section, but anyone can go on and find the game they hated before the league even started. So basically, this is your dream Super League fixture. Your birth month decides the game. So, for example, mine is May, Man City versus Arsenal. Phone charge is the sponsor, 82%. So I've got Starbucks there. So I've got Man City v Arsenal, sponsored by Starbucks. And 11th is my birthday. That decides the venue, which is the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. So I've got Man City versus Arsenal, sponsored by Starbucks, at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, which doesn't sound too unrealistic. At this point on Sunday night, I would have been saying, yeah, that'll happen.
Which is in Atlanta, by the way, so that is a transatlantic one. Yeah. Dobby, what was yours?
So I'm Juve Chelsea, sponsored by Qatar Airways, and it's a local one. We're only over at the Aviva Stadium, so.
Yeah, they've done well, to be fair.
Chelsea fans,
Trice.
you'd be alright there.
Aviva Stadium's done well to get into your list of world stadiums.
They're getting overlooked. They've got no chance. Well, Singapore will be in there.
Dublin's a lovely city break, but
Singapore has got one in there. I just don't know which one it is.
Singapore Nationals.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah, that's what you put it.
That'll be the one.
Singapore National Stadium.
No sponsor for that one.
So my game would be Arsenal versus Spurs. So that's my phone charge on at the minute, 68. Sponsored by Hawaii. Huawei? What's it? Yeah,
I think Huawei sounds.
Yeah. Venue would be at the Ajinomoto Stadium in Tokyo. So that
Wow, some bloody
that sounds
mileage.
very Super League, doesn't it? Yeah. The
Take
North
17
London
hours to get to
derbies.
that one.
Yeah, North London derbies going to Tokyo.
It's like going on a Northern Rail train. 17 hours. Arsenal Spurs, that's got Gary Neville in the punditry live at the stadium written all over
Yeah.
it. Did you? That's just before we move on. That was one of the best things I think from Monday. Just whenever Spurs or Arsenal got a mention, and Gary Neville's reaction. He's like,
they're jokes.
You must have
They're
seen.
jokes of a cut. Yeah, you watched Arsenal draw against Fulham on Sunday. Like they're an absolute shambles.
Yeah, he said, I don't know how they wangled their way into this. They're an absolute joke to watch at the minute.
He said on Sunday that he was like, Spurs, yeah, I'm not even bothered about Spurs. Spurs just clearly are just in it because they're hanging on to coattails.
Oh, that was good, that Trice. And yeah, looking at them stadiums, a lot of them definitely would have been included. The Yankee Stadium would have probably had more matches than like Stamford Bridge, which is a real sad thing to think.
The Melbourne Cricket Ground's the interesting one for me. I'd be just interested to see like a game there. Admittedly not in this format. I want to see a pre-season friendly there at best. But
Yeah. Anyway, you can join in on that if you want to. It's on our Instagram and Twitter.
yeah, you've been doing some good stuff this week on there. Trice.
I think we could all agree that like the in-game sponsorships, the like games being dotted around the world would have been a thing. Do you think there'd have been any other random things that would have seen introduced to this like new format?
I heard that there was a rumour going around. I don't know if either of you two have seen it on social media that there were going to be 0 points were going to be awarded for a draw as to encourage attacking play. So that would have really ruled out Tony Pulis of a job at any of these clubs.
Well, I don't know if you two have been watching any Indian Premier League cricket, and that is sort of like commercial at every opportunity. So they have like the see it strategic timeout whenever they have a drinks break and stuff like that. And that is 100% what would have happened in the European Super League. I think the
Drinks breaks or going down to quarters, something daft like that.
Yeah.
drinks break sponsored by Gatorade.
Yeah. Jurgen Klopp having to say Subway eat fresh at the end of every interview. Is that even still Subway's tagline? I might be like
Talk about a hole in one.
I might be 15 years out of date with the eat fresh reference. But yeah, good stuff, boys. I think we've given that a deserved kicking tonight. I mean, there's one last point I'll hand over to you, Trice. But how would they have wangled their way into this Super League, basically?
Yeah, so I just wanted to go a bit light-hearted, really, and make a sort of speed dating thing, imagining other clubs what their pitch would be to get in if it had gone ahead. We've talked a bit about the serious stuff and the implications and that, so I wanted to just lighten things up. So, for example, say you two are the hot bachelor that's the European Super League, and I'm FC Porto's chairman. Hi, I'm FC Porto, and I've won 2 European Cups. I play in a shit league, but a lot of our players go on to bigger clubs. We can be your feeder team.
Nice. When you put that together, that's I like it. You'd be good on Tinder, Trice.
Disclaimer: never had it. But, and then I was thinking like to you two, what other clubs do you think would have been flirting with this had it not been a PR disaster?
I suppose the obvious place to go is Glasgow.
Oh, you've pinched mine there, Jack.
Oh, sorry, are you going for Glasgow as well?
Written about 7 notes as well. Took round.
In that case, sorry, Dolly, I did not know you put preference. You take.
No, go on, you get us started, and then I'll fill in your blanks for you.
Well, I don't even know what I was going to say. I was just going to sort of point out that they would be. I mean, the Rangers always pride themselves on being the greatest club in the world because they've won the most league titles. So, I just sort of I suppose it's quantity over quality is what Rangers' approach to this format would be, and like we got let us in because we've won most league titles.
Yeah. Just going off of sheer numbers.
Yeah.
No, essentially a lot of the numbers that I'd plucked out were around that as well. But I actually just focused mine on Celtic though, Jack.
Oh, right. That's
And
okay then.
apparently, I don't know why, because if you're Celtic go, Rangers have got to go, haven't they? Like they kind of
Yeah.
come as a pair. They hate
do.
each other.
Imagine if one went and the other was left in the SPL, just thrashing Hamilton Academy.
These two contestants come as a pair.
They could come, but they're not. Just pick straws. Which one of you can come? Can have one Scottish team.
Celtic fans just,
Yeah.
back to the SPL.
But yeah, my argument for Celtic was that, and sadly, Trice, I'm not going to be able to do it in the manner that you did, which was really, really well orchestrated, actually. But so I'll try. So pick me. I'm Celtic. I'm one of 5 clubs in the world to have won over 100 trophies, according to Wikipedia. I have an estimated worldwide fan base of 9 million, with more than 120 Celtic supporters clubs in over 20 countries. So, exposure.
Ticking boxes are nice.
I'm a former European Cup winner. I have 7 domestic trebles. Restriction to the Scottish League has meant that I can't test my limits as a club, a brand, and an organisation. This would provide me a great opportunity to do so. If you're not sold just yet, I have the highest attendance for a European club match, 136,000 versus Leeds at Hampden Park in the 1970 European Cup semi-final. And lastly, if you're not sold already, in 2019, France Football, great reference, ranked me as the 21st biggest football club in the world.
I feel like you've just read Celtic's LinkedIn page today.
It was taken from about just 3 different websites, but
I like that, Dobby. That's good. For me, they can go in.
yeah, and last thing, Rangers have got to come with us, sadly, just so we can. Just so we've got to come as a pair.
They do come as a pair. You couldn't separate one from the other. That would just be. I mean, just imagine. I mean, the Scottish League, the SPL's either got to be without them or with them. It can't have just one of them. It'll be even worse than Celtic dominating for the last decade. Christ.
Well, that happened, didn't it, when Rangers were down the league?
Yeah. That was
At least Rangers
So, yeah. Have you got any? You got another one, Trice, to chuck in there?
I did mention Ajax originally, but I haven't got any snazzy facts on it, so I'm going to hand over to. What have you said, Jack? Rangers.
I've not written one in the style of you two who've actually come up with decent dating profiles in a weird way. Does that work for football clubs? But all I was going to say was that Red Star Belgrade, right? They're the most popular football club in Serbia. Guess how many % of the population support them?
72.
I mean, you've blown me out the water by going higher than the figure. I thought you'd both go quite low. You've gone in with
70...
a ridiculously high 70. It's nowhere near that. No, I'm talking the whole population, right? Proper supporters. I'm not talking like say you
men, women, and children.
Yeah, I'm talking like you like. I'm not talking about which percentage of football fans support Red Star Belgrade in Serbia. I'm talking about which percentage of the population of Serbia supports Red Star Belgrade. The rest of the population might not even be into football.
25% of the population of Serbia supports Red Star Belgrade.
I feel like
68.
I've gone down completely the wrong
40.
track. The correct answer is 48.2. So, if anyone's... It sounds like you won't be impressed with that, but I think there'll be someone listening
Almost half.
realises that's impressive.
It's like 1 in 2 people
supports Red Star Belgrade, basically.
on the street would say they support Red Star Belgrade.
They're
That
big,
is pretty impressive.
They're aggressive. There's a lot of them. I mean, what more could you want?
Personality. They've got personality, haven't they? They've got attitude.
Previous winner of the European Cup as well, so...
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they have got like communist links. So obviously, if you're not into that, if you're a hardline right winger, you're probably not going to be into Red Star Belgrade when it comes to dating or the Super League. But yeah, they would be my selection. I do think clubs like that, they make the Champions League.
They
You
do,
can't
yeah.
cut them off. I think even when on FIFA 2003, this is a really narrow reference, even for this podcast. But I think on FIFA 2003 there was a mode called like Club Series or something, and it was basically like a European Super League that they just thrown together for the game. And I think Red Star Belgrade were in that Club 14 or 13, however many there were, that were in the European Super League. So if anyone has got a copy of FIFA 2003 and can check that for me, then
Trice does.
Then please do. Yeah.
Yeah, he used
Get it,
to.
load it up, Trice. Get it out now.
I did buy that like in about 2014.
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago. From gaming to Scunthorpe Town Centre for like £2.
No, it was literally like 40p, I think it was.
Yeah, I remember that. I came with you to get it.
Great days.
Yeah, my second team was, and sadly I ain't built a profile because there wasn't a great one to build for Red Bull Leipzig, but it was just essentially like Red Bull cash. We'll chuck an extra £200 million a year in just to sponsor the corner flags. We'll host the games at various stadiums, our arenas around the world, and you need some German representation, so just stick us in and we'll do a job for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we've made good cases there if it had gone ahead. Definitely.
And at half time, we'll have a Red Bull truck doing like a jump, like get some ramps out, and then lay a load of like people across the pitch, and then this truck will do a big jump. So like half-time stunts, basically.
That's brilliant.
That's Dobby's pitch for his job at Red Bull in the next few years. Just some big stunts. I'm just talking lots of people, and a truck will do a big jump.
Yeah, what can cash, corner flags, and just stunts. That's essentially the Red Bull pitch to this. But Red Bull have got whatever they're just going, look, we're Leipzig, but after 2 years we're merging and we're just Red Bull.
We're just Red Bull.
And we have 7 stadiums, and just
We have closer links with our Formula 1 team than we do with our Bundesliga opponents.
Yeah, Red Bull. So it is essentially like everything that you want to become. We are already like, yeah, we get you. Like we're on board with that. Don't worry.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, that was my second shout. I was going to put a Russian team in there, but I just didn't really know what to read. Just because I thought Russia, just get a Russian team in there. But I didn't really do any research on them, so I backed out of that one.
I mean, which are you saying, Trice? Which do you think should have been in, along with the 12 originals of this terrible plan? Who should have been the 13th member?
On the basis of what's been provided, I'm going to have to side with Dobby for RB Leipzig, just on the motto cash,
for what Red Bull.
Cash, corners, stunts is the reason to get. If that's not a tagline for an apprentice game, I'm not sure.
That was one of the other good tweets I saw about this weekend, or this week, shall I say. Somebody tweeted, just, is the European Super League an apprentice task? It's completely fucked after 48 hours. Like, that just reeks of being an apprentice.
It's funny you should say that. When I came in from when I came in, I've been working in the spare room for a year. When I left my spare room to go in the front room, Kevin from work, Rosie actually said to me about that tweet, and I think apparently Greg James chatted about it on Radio 1 this morning. She showed me the clip, and he did like a little imitation of some guy called Rupert from London in the boardroom trying to like pitch to Alan Sugar why it's like a great idea. And it's actually worth a listen. It was pretty good. It was pretty good fun.
Brilliant.
But so, Trice, do you think so? Leipzig, I'm glad that you've gone with me, but did Celtic get left because I said Rangers have got to come along?
Well,
is that the reason why you overlooked my Celtic pitch? Because there are a lot of hard facts in there.
How many do we allow in? I think if we go 12 original founding members, and then if we made it 16, does that even work in total? What was the original plans? Was it 15 or 16? I can't remember.
I feel like it was 16,
20,
and then
I think it was going to be
20
teams. Like 15 were going to be the core members. They hadn't invited 3 of them, and then every season there'd be 20 teams. But
All right,
I mean,
so
that
for the
feels a bit
founding
like everyone
members,
gets a trophy day.
yeah, for the founding members, I'll chuck Celtic, Rangers, and RB Leipzig in. FC Porto's pitch misses out, and they have to wait for another invitation, I think.
Just thinking about Celtic, it's such a slap in the face to them all this, isn't it? Because like they obviously are a good, well-supported club with some history, and they're just like in limbo year after year, just having to just compete in Scotland and just never be attractive enough to like ever do anything in Europe. And then some other teams just get a bit fed up of like their own kind of structures and their own finances and decide to go and make this big great idea and obviously just exclude them from it, and it's just like Celtic and Rangers are just going to be trapped in like Scotland forever.
This might have been, if this had come off, it might have been the catalyst to finally bring Celtic and Rangers into the Premier. The only way the Premier League could have survived was rebranding as the British Premier League and getting like Celtic and Rangers on board. Maybe getting a team in Dublin, as was talked about in the 90s. But yeah,
that'd have been a good like
we'll
draft lottery, almost like WWE draft lottery. You've lost your best
bringing ECW
superstars. Like who's gonna replace them? And then like the day before the season starts, big announcement: Rangers and Celtic are here.
Celtic and Rangers do have major ECW revival 2006 energy. Like, they really are pushing that if they come into the Premier League. One day it'll happen. Boys, I think that's it. The bar is closed for this emergency broadcast. During this, at times, difficult week, I feel slightly more uplifted about the game than I did probably at the start, and certainly on Sunday night when the news got announced. So it's been good to chat with you about this shit show, and I think it'll definitely be our collective vote for Football Room 101 this week will be the European Super League. And cheers to that, really.
Yeah, cheers, gents. It's good to have a chat about it, and enjoyed that.
Cheers, boys.
Cheers, Trice.
R.I.P. European Super League.
Thank fuck for that.
Never again.
If you enjoy this shambles of a football podcast, you can get in touch with myself, Trice, and Dobby at any of the following addresses on social media. Trice, what are we on Twitter?
Play Out From Bar.
So that's at Play Out From Bar. And what are we on Instagram?
Playing Out From the Bar.
Beautiful. And what are we on Facebook?
Playing Out From the Bar again.
We like to mix it up on this show.
Creative.
And we're also playing out from the bar at gmail.com if you want to send us an email. Anything football related at all. It can be a weird story, a bit like the time when Trice met Harry Maguire in a Manchester boozer. Anything along those lines, then just send it in and we'll read it out on the show and discuss it. So, cheers. Get in touch.